Okay, whoa, 4 people. Wow, that was fast. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'll just wait a little bit, make sure everyone is set up, and give them a chance. Maybe not even the full minute this time with people already here, but yep, so let me make sure I can actually, because last week, uh, might have remembered I didn't have the live chat on for the first like 10 minutes. Turn it on. Oh, look, there's a page of comments. That happens. So, okay then. I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Terrier Talk. This is episode 8, and I'm joined, of course, by the lovely Catherine Bondeland. Nice to have you here, of course.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. So, big week we had last week. A lot to talk about, but first, the girls' basketball season unfortunately came to an end. It was a very sad game. I wasn't able to make it, but I was hoping, first of all, that you were able to tell me a little bit more about what happened in that game.
Well, we started off the first quarter pretty strong. We were down, I think, 4. And then second quarter, they pulled ahead. We were down 14. And then we went on a 14-0 run, which went third into the fourth quarter.
Wow, okay.
And then they made some key shots and a few key free throws, which ended up putting them up with not enough time to score 4 points. So
Okay.
sad end. But
Yeah, I know. With Turlings was a 5 seed. We were a 12 seed. Especially the way it happened. I know 47-43, I could look at that box score now. It's a close game, but there's no tied in the fourth quarter. Have a chance, and especially against I don't know how far Turlings are going to go. They're still in the tournament, of course, but against such a good team, that's a really good performance from the players. Obviously, from you, from Brittany, from Amy, everyone. And it's very interesting to talk about the first quarter because it's something I've noted throughout the season. You guys have had somewhat slow first quarters from time to time. During the win streak, of course. Actually, tell me a little bit more about the win streak, Ash.
Well, we started off the new year pretty strong. I think it was 7 games. Started off district 2-0, and then sadly we couldn't finish out district as well as we wanted to. But during that win streak, we worked together as a team and just really bonded and played to our strengths and helped us pull out a few good wins.
That's awesome. That really. And I know starting off district, even beforehand with the non-district game against Edie White and then the district game against Edie White, there was pretty solid victories. But even in those games where we looked like the better team in the second, third, and fourth quarter, against Edie White, we were trailing. Against Morgan City, we were tied. Actually, it might be the other way around. But we were not looking like that in the first quarter. It almost takes us a little bit of time throughout the season to get started. And then we look like that great team in the second and third quarter. Also showed in some of the losses, like against South Lafourche, we were down in the first quarter and weren't able to come back, for example. I was able to make that game. Sorry. But it's interesting to see at the end of the season that not be the case. Against Ellender, against Assumption, having relatively strong openings and maybe not being able to finish in those games, and against Turlings, being able to hang with Turlings, for example, even being down 4 against that great team. But it's interesting to see that development of the team, and I'm very happy that that's happened.
Yeah, we started to realize that to get the job done, we had to come out and throw the first punch. So I think we started to realize what we had to do.
Yeah, and talking about, I guess, punching tenacity was a very large theme of this team and that roster. This is from a spectator's perspective. Brittany, you, Leah, Amy, Janie, Sarah, all these players, so tenacious when you're playing. It's rigorous watching you. It's physicality. It's almost like you're playing football out there at times, going out there tackling people almost. And then that's a compliment. It is. And the ability to not have to wait a quarter through those first 3 quarters of the season, to be able to go out there and throw that first punch, especially next season. Because thinking about next season, of course, we lose Lacey Domingue, we lose Sarah Savoie to big losses, of course. But so much is developing. So many seniors next season.
We've been preparing for this, and next year it's going to be good.
Next year, I am very eager to see. next year. Of course, it'll be my senior year, or senior year, everyone's senior year. Not everyone, but you get the idea. And I want to ask, if there are any big moments throughout the season that just stick out to you as great memories?
The Turlings game for sure. That one will always stick with us. It was a hard loss, but I mean that 7-game win streak too was one of the high points of the season, and that one will definitely keep with us too.
Awesome. And I know going into the South Terrebonne game was where it unfortunately ended. That it was, I want to say the two teams hadn't lost going into the new year, going into that game. And it made that game so interesting as a game, because you don't think going into the season, Vanderbilt girls basketball against South Terrebonne's girls basketball. What's going to be the stakes going into that game, even as a district game? But there was so much going into it. It's such a marquee matchup. And it was a really big night for Vanderbilt basketball in general. Of course, opening up district play for the boys and a very big game for the girls. So it was a good night, of course, and it was an unfortunate loss for the girls, but it was a very good season overall, I think, including that game.
Yes, we worked hard during the offseason, and we definitely improved a lot. It didn't end how we wanted it to, but I'm hoping we can build off of it and do better in the future.
That's awesome. That's great. And I hope to see you guys next year. Obviously, I will see you guys next year. But I hope to see you guys improving and developing as players and as a team. And I'm really, really ready. And I cannot wait to see what happens next year, because I think this team can go far. I really do. So thank you, of course, for being on. Thank you. And I will hopefully see you on sometime again.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So, adjusting this a little bit. Thank you, Kate. So, just to wrap up the girls' basketball season a little bit, it was a great season from them. Of course, the unfortunate loss to Turlings mentioned in the interview, 47-43. Good to see you again, Ben. And it was a great season from them. Going into the tournament as a dark horse, great team, great game, and I can't wait to see them next season. A few other things from last week before we get to the big one. Boys basketball also ended their season, our season, in a loss, 68-55 to Ben Franklin. It was I was not able to make the game, of course. For people who were around school for the last week, you might know that I was sick the last couple of days, and so I was not able to make that game. But we were not successful, unfortunately, and it is going to be the end of our season, losing in the first round of the playoffs. Outside of that, baseball had a close loss to East St. John. This is an interesting game. So it was to open up the season against East St. John, and there were two key plays that I want to pinpoint when talking about that game. First is we're in the top of the second, playing East St. John, and we have we're down 2-0. They have more runners in scoring position. I think a runner on second, and no, there's a runner on third. I remember this. So a runner on third, I was able to make the first few innings of this game. Two key points. This one, runner on third, one out, and great catch. I think it was from Jean-Luc Lepere. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but I think it was from Jean-Luc Lepere. And a throw in to Eli David. Two freshmen successfully making an amazing play. Jean-Luc with the catch and the throw to home plate to beat the third base runner, of course, at home plate, stopping the bleeding from that inning. Now, unfortunately, after a run in the bottom of the third, I think it was, we were not able to capitalize on that great play due to another huge play in that half inning. So the bottom of the third, similar play, one out, bases loaded. We left a bunch of runners, both in scoring position and on in play, on the bases in this game, including in this bottom of the third inning. This was probably the one that hurt the most. Bases loaded, one out, and suicide squeeze comes in. And East St. John, they make a really, really good play, getting the force out at home and then a throw out at first base A very impressive play. It was a very close play. I thought initially from my reaction watching the game that we were not able to, that we were actually in, that we scored the run. But they called him out. They called the runner at first out, and we came away with that with only one run in that inning when we really should have had 2, 3, maybe even 4, and we weren't able to retaliate. Now, that happened. We finished the game. We end up losing, unfortunately, 3-1, and it's a pretty bitter loss, I would say, for us this to start off the season. And I hope we'll have better luck, I guess would be the best way to say it, going in future weeks and future games. Outside of that, softball got rained out. Tennis took care of business, and golf, the girls' golf team did very well this week in their games in La Tour, not LA Tour. I apologize for that from last week. Outside of that, of course, you have the big one from last week. So, girls soccer played Turlings in the state championship game. And you've probably heard what happened. It was a loss 3-0, and we finished as the state runner-up in the game. But there's a lot more to this game. There's a lot more to what happened in this game than just looking at the box score. Because right under where you see the goals, the number of goals, of course, 1 in the first half, 2 in the second half, for Turlings, us losing 3-0, you see that shots on goal number. And it's not something you should glance. It's not something you should just glance over, oh, shots on goal. What was the number? Vanderbilt 12, Turling 6. And I don't even think that gives that statistic justice. And I'll explain that in a second. But before I explain just how extreme this game was in that sense, Vanderbilt had 12 shots on goal to Turling 6. Vanderbilt had twice as many shots on goal as Turlings did in this game with a loss 3-0. That is so rare in soccer. Generally speaking, this wasn't always the case, so it wasn't the case here, but generally speaking, the team with more shots on goal is the better team and the team that goes on to win the game. It's not normal to double a team in shots on goal and then lose by 3 goals. That doesn't happen. And I really don't think, even as extreme as that statistic is, I really don't think it gives it justice. I was able to watch the game, and the girls were just, they owned time of possession. They owned the ball. It felt like we were on their side of the field for so much of that game. It felt like shot on goal, shot on goal, shot on goal. There was at least an offensive possession with fear, with the ability potentially to score. It felt like we had a scoring opportunity about 25 times in that game. 0 goals. It felt like they only had about 7 or 8 scoring opportunities, as I'll call it, in that game. 3 goals. And there has to be some exterior factor for that to happen, whether that be luck or whether that be a large part in this case, the goalie play of Turlings. Now, this is not saying anything about the goalie play of Vanderbilt. Kristen Saunier had a good game. She played well. The way the goals happened, there wasn't really much she could do about really all 3 goals. It was just where the balls were placed, she wasn't able to do very much about it. So this is nothing to do with Kristen Saunier. She had a good game. But their goalie won player of the game. That's not normal. The goalie is not the player that tends to win player of the game. It's a player that scores a goal, has an assist, things like that. But from the perspective of everyone else, from the perspective of the spectator, they saw it as the goalie's game because it was the goalie's game. I don't remember her name. I apologize. But she had a monstrous game. Again, shot, save. It felt like all of them, every single possession, the ball was in her hands almost magically. It almost felt like it was just, oh, we have a possession, and then it's in her hands, and it's a goal kick or a throw out from her. And it was so frustrating from the fans' perspective watching that. And it must have been frustrating from the players' perspective. It had to be. Because the rest of the game, Vanderbilt looked like the better team. We really did. We allowed fewer shots on goal. We had so many shots on goal. We should have scored 2, 3, 4 goals at least. And it was a combination of their great goalie and a little bit of luck. Off the crossbar, off the bar, tip. One of the goals, if I recall correctly, scored on us was off of a tip off of the goalie's hand, off of Kristen's hand. And that's just luck. There's only so much you can do. We played great. The first 10 minutes, I think, are indicative, a very good sort of microcosm of how this game went. The first 10 minutes, we almost owned the ball the entire first 10 minutes. Not shot on goal, but offensive possession. Getting close to the goal. Happens. And we're just not able to punctuate the possession. We're just not able to finish. Not able to capitalize on our situations, on our opportunities. The first time they get the ball on our side of the goal, with the help of a free kick, it's a score. It's a goal. And that it happens. And that's how the whole game went. They had we had so many more scoring opportunities than they did, and we were just not able to capitalize time after time after time. And the few opportunities they got, they capitalized on. And of course, congratulations to Turlings. It's a very unfortunate game for us, but that does not say anything about how the season was. This is any metric you look at that you can expand as wide as you can, whether that be region, state, or even nation. Any metric that can measure that says that we're a top 50 team in the nation, top 25 even team in the nation. This team was incredibly strong all year, played with everyone except for maybe St. Scholastica, but St. Scholastica was a top 5 team. Played with everyone, competed, played hard, didn't give up at any point in time. In that game, even down 3-0 with 10 minutes left to go, we did not give in. We played hard, we finished, and the game, of course, unfortunately, didn't go our way. But the season, it's theirs. It was a great season. The season's unfortunately over now, but don't let this loss distract from the fact that this season was extremely strong from our girls' soccer team. And of course, hopefully, we can come back next season and to be just as good, if not even better. That's of course the hope. That is everything for the, result and review section of the video, and that's going to be significantly longer than the preview section, as I'll talk about in just a second. If anyone was fearing that this video would be really long because this was a relatively long review portion of the video, that is not a fear, because this is one of the least eventful, I guess is the best way to put it, weeks of the sports year for Vanderbilt, outside of course, when the seasons aren't in anymore. We're in spring, and it's very understandable why this is the case. We're in spring. It is the very beginning of the season. Baseball's still getting started up. Softball's still getting started up. Track is still getting started up. I'll talk about that in a second. And we have the big part of this is the fact that exams are this week. So there's going to be a lot less scheduling going on for specific games. With that being said, there's not much. There's not much here. But that doesn't mean that it's, that there's nothing. So let's talk about what we do have. I will go ahead and touch on track real quick. Track had a meet against at Thibodeau that was scheduled, and the coaches decided not to go to the meet. So we will be starting the season next week, I think, with multiple meets next week, both freshmen and varsity. So I'll talk more about track then. Outside of that, girls golf has a match on Thursday. Boys golf has a match on Tuesday and Wednesday. With golf, I don't know very much about golf, just in general. The team, just good luck to the Terriers, of course, and softball. In the only, I guess, out of softball, baseball, track, the only game this week. Softball hosts John Curtis on Wednesday. So this is the first game, of course, for our Terriers because we got rained out last week, as I mentioned earlier. So this is interesting because John Curtis is a very good team, and I'll touch on that in a second, John. Thank you, though. John Curtis is a very, very strong team, and it'll probably be a pretty tough game for our Terriers, for our softball team. But it'll be our home opener. Everyone, of course, come to that game, and it'll be hopefully a good game for us. Last week, with the game getting canceled, this is the true start to the season for the softball team. The boys' baseball does have a tournament Thursday through Saturday. I missed this earlier on. I apologize. But they do have a tournament, big tournament for them after the game last week. Hopefully we'll be able to bounce back in those games throughout Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and be able to get some victories. And finally, I decided when looking at the schedule this week, looking at what we have, I decided that I think I decided for the main event to give it to the bowling team. So bowling this week takes on Edie White tomorrow, Monday in the afternoon at Creole Lanes. So with softball facing John Curtis, opening up the season, that's a big game. Golf, baseball tournament. I decided bowling, give them something here. So I don't know very much about the bowling team. Obviously, I know how the sport bowling works, but I don't know very much about how the bowling team, how that exactly works, how their games work. But what I can say about it is it's a game, it's a sporting event against Edie White, so it's big. It's always big. It's the Holy War, as we say. And it's always going to be important. No matter anything we can beat Edie White in is going to be big. So go out there and see us to a victory, bowling team, of course. And that's going to be it. So for this week, it's not much. Baseball has a tournament. Softball has a game against John Curtis. John Curtis is very good. Bowling, golf, and that is about it. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this week. I hope to see you next week. Same time, same channel. See ya.